It looks like we are heading down to the table here, getting to get ready for our Masters final of the European International Championships 2025. Yeah. And I'm seeing some prizes going down here.
We're going to get
2 3P.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tough to try and navigate as we get the chance to see Ryuki's prizes as well here. There's going to be some really sort of interesting sort of sequencing that's going to come out. One of those Badus also currently prized on Ryuki's side. We know he plays 2 copies of. We've seen him on stream already. We know how important that Itchy Pollen can be in combination with that other card that's prized as well, Binding Mochi. But let's see how both these players are going to navigate this actual final.
Yeah, that Binding Mochi, there's 3 of them that can be played, and we were counting them in Ryuki's top 4 game. We spent the whole of that game counting the Binding Mochi, seeing how many were left, because, you know, that extra damage was such a big deal for getting so many of those KOs. There's a fist bump, ladies and gentlemen in the crowd, make some noise for your Masters Division final. Okay, so we start off with Ryuki and that lovely Monkey Dory, and Natalie with that Pheasantipity. And it looks like Ryuki is going to be taking our first turn.
Yeah, one of those very good things about not actually starting one of those Dreepies is actually having a Pokemon that can't be instantly knocked out from some of those tips and tricks that we've already mentioned and started talking about in Ryuki's deck. Those poisoned opportunities with that Pecharunt to try and take an easy KO and actually end the game sometimes on his first turn. But this is the opportunity to do that first deck search here and actually identify exactly what is available. Actually, hang on. This is actually...
Yeah, that double turbo. Yeah, I took a bit of a... what are we looking at?
The support has been played. Does that mean Natalie actually went first and it was just a pass back over?
Oh, if this is turn 1 for Ryuki after Natalie's had a turn, that is terrible. You're right. If Ryuki's playing a supporter, that means Natalie had a full turn where she did nothing. Oh, and that's already game 1. Ryuki's already won game 1. Natalie has nothing. Ryuki wins game 1. We're going to game 2 with less than 2 minutes taken off the clock.
Wow, incredible for a very, very first game. I started talking about the opportunity to poison a smaller HP Pokemon, but we didn't quite get the glimpse that actually Natalie was the one who went first and had that Pheasantipity EX in the active spot, fighting weak. And then that Cloth was just ready to go down in just that single quick turn, had everything already in that one hand.
Yeah, and I did wonder, I was like, why is Ryuki getting rid of a double turbo energy? That's a really useful resource, and the answer is because Cloth is a fighting type that hits Pheasantipity for weakness, and that whole turn happened so fast. I mean, Natalie's turn was literally just draw past. We didn't even see the turn happen. There come the Cloth hands. Oh, we got a minute. Can we get some more Cloth hands going in the crowd? I love seeing all of those Cloth hands. It makes me happy. But that's why Ryuki was willing to get rid of that double turbo energy, because you only need 1. He had a second, and like you say, Precious Trolley, get the Cloth and everything else, get that KO. There's my crab hands coming down.
Come on, let's make sure there's some noise also for Natalie here. She's a fantastic player. She's gone, who's going to be trying to turn this back around, of course. 1 game down, but we know Natalie's been in positions like this before. She's been a champion before as well, so she deserves every plaudits for even being here in the first place, and we'll be looking to try and turn this way back around on Ryuki.
Yeah, one of the top players in the game. That was just a very unfortunate thing. Right, I've been here since we started doing these EU streams in 2016. I've been here for, well, I'm in my 9th year doing this. I have never seen any game in any match end that quickly. I'm not talking about a final, I'm not talking about an IC, I mean any game in any tournament. I have never seen a 1 minute, 10-second game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is actually incredible sort of scenes to actually see what's happening here as our players are still setting up for game 2, of course. But just in the lead up and build up to this actual stream finals match here, just to let everyone know, Natalie actually has bested Cloth Terrapagos twice during her run to the finals, whilst Ryuki's also 3-0 against Bolt, or Dragapult EX, I should say. So this really can go swings and roundabouts here, back and forth.
So the question is Ryuki really good against Dragapult? and you know, this is just a Terrapagos exception, or is Natalie's Dragapult really good against Clorf, and this is a Dragapult exception? One of these players is going to have their streak broken of being really good against the other decks. One of these players is the exception whereby their deck can go against it. But here we go into game 2. Natalie starts with Purdue. That is a much better starter. And Ryuki's got a Terrapagos in the active. And it looks like we are on Natalie for turn 1.
Yeah, it's going to be super important here as Natalie's just double checking what's in her hand. Does have Ultra Ball. Again, one of those scary, scary things is leaving that very small HP Pokemon in the active spot. So we need to get something else going here as well, as there is that discard of that rescue board and the counter catcher for a chance for Natalie to have a little look through those prizes just as we bring them up for everyone to see as well.
One Dragapult, one Dracloak, not ideal, not the end of the world. Obviously, it's 4-4-3 line is generally standard. Yeah, that's what Natalie's playing here. And then there's that one Dusclops prize, but there are 2 in the deck, so nothing terrible in the prizes for Natalie there. She's going to be able to navigate this one okay. And I know we've seen it on the past 2 games, but just very quickly. Dragapult, you evolve up into Dragapult. You've got that attack that does 200 to the active while dropping 6 damage counters on the bench, and that fantastic Stage 1 Dracloak, which has got that recon directive ability, which draws extra cards. Generally speaking, you evolve up into Dragapult, you use Phantom Dive to do big damage and take extra prizes, and then we've got some other damage manipulation, some Badoo shenanigans we can get to as we go further into the game.
Yeah, so Natalie Millar right now is just double checking what exactly she has available for the rest of this game. Remember, she's currently 1 game down after just 2 minutes, and will be looking to try and mount a massive comeback here. I believe there is a Dreepy also in hand, does have access now to the Rotom to help set up the board state, use that instant charge, draw cards up so that on future turns we'll be able to start combating back at the Clorf Terrapagos deck.
Yeah, the player that goes first on their first turn is not allowed to play a supporter and not allowed to attack, so we use Rotom's instant charge to draw 3 cards, because if it's going to end your turn anyway, well, you couldn't do anything else, you might as well instant charge. And then we go over to Ryuki and their Terrapagos deck.
Yeah, one of those incredible decks, and something that we've seen in more recent times as well, especially combined with that Terrapagos EX and utilizing that Aereo Zero under depths here. So we do see the Ultra Ball discarding, that Carmine and the Switch Cart, I believe, as well, as we get a chance for Ryuki to work out his prizes now. One of those Budgies again, one of those Binding Mochis, that Kieran's another potential switching out as well, or opportunity to deal more damage against EX Pokemon. So again, nothing too bad here, and there's an opportunity for Ryuki really just to start the initiative by getting all of those combo pieces.
And it's going to be, this is the game that's going to test our mathematical skills here, Alex, because what we basically got, we got that Terrapagos. It does 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. Generally, we use double turbo, so it's reduced by 20. Now, 220 damage is not enough to KO something big like a Dragapult. It doesn't do enough damage. But then we play around with poison. We use Binding Mochi, which does extra damage if you are poisoned. Radiant Hisuian Sneasler, that adds poison damage, and maybe even that Kieran. So we build up that damage much higher than normal. Right now, we've got ourselves Oranguru. When it's in the active, you search for any 2 Pokemon tool cards. That's a good thing.
Yeah, back order, a really, really useful ability within this sort of combo-based deck when you're having to piece together all of those.
Why is there energy on Oranguru?
Doesn't want to discard it away, maybe sort of just going through a different motion here. Remember, trying to utilize that double turbo energy to retreat as well, because it does require 2 energies, maybe get into something like a Badoo himself, and maybe start locking out Natalie in this game initially, because it's just that one Dreepy.
Yeah, generally speaking, Oranguru, not a good attacker, and you only play 4 double turbo energy, and that really is what you use for both Terrapagos or Clorf, which are your 2 attackers in the deck, but it was going to be discarded anyway. Here comes Precious Trolley, and we don't have Area Zero Underdepths on the board right now, so only 3 extra bench Pokemon. One could actually be a Latias to allow you to free retreat, and it is, so you don't need the energy for retreating. Could we see Oranguru doing 130 damage at some point?
Maybe, but I'd like to think that there's going to be a retreat here. And then with Itchy Pollen and the Brute Bonnet Poison will actually be a potential knockout here into that opposing Badoo with the Poison, because it's 10 damage with Itchy Pollen, and then the Hisuian Sneasler allowing to tick over the damage counters from the Poison status checkup between turns.
And very important, as we pointed out on the stream yesterday, 10 damage was done and the KO happened with Poison, which means it happened during Pokemon checkup, which means Phesandipity's Flip the Script does not work. What does work, however, Lance, go get free Dragon Pokemon, and right now it is Dreepy time.
Yep, it's one of those few cards we started to see in more recent tournaments, especially since the release of Prismatic Evolutions and, of course, that Badoo in that active position for Ryuki there, because the Lance is able to just be utilized to effectively utilize just like a Buddy Poffin, but you're actually just grabbing any of your Dragon-type Pokemon. And here we do see Natalie just going for that Dreepy and double Dratcloak, beginning to just start set up that board as well. Recon Directive now live with that fire energy attached Dratcloak as well. So one goes to the hand, one goes to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, generally speaking, your ideal scenario is use stuff like Buddy Poffin on turn 1, you get all your Dreepy out, and then Lance will go and get you free Dratcloak, and then you've got free Recon Directive, and then you're drawing a whole bunch of cards. The fact that Natalie's got one Dratcloak on the board and nothing else tells you two things. But mostly it tells you she didn't get enough Dreepy out on turn 1. Not her fault, she didn't have the cards to do it. But it means, you know, even though this game is obviously going better than game 1, she's not getting the setup she would generally like. We see a second Dreepy, but the hand is like Arven, Duskull, there is another Dreepy. Okay, that's good, I like this.
Yeah, the one other thing is, maybe wouldn't want to have that Rotom V in the active spot, does elect to use Instant Charge, drawing 3 cards and ending your turn. Right now, with no Area 0 Underdepths, there is no space for that Cloth to come down, of course, because that Rotom V is weak to fighting.
It is, but honestly, we see the double turbo coming down on the Terrapagos here. If we see an Area 0 Underdepths, we don't. Oh, I love this. Boss's orders on that Dreepy and a Binding Mochi on the Badoo. So Badoo actually does 50 damage here, and then the Poison kicks in, KO's Dreepy. Ryuki takes his second prize, and what's crucial here, once again, that KO came through with Poison. Phesandipity's Flip the Script does not work. And I know I keep saying it, but I keep saying it because it's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that I know Ryuki's very, very strong at right now, knowing when and each of one of those attacks alongside Poison will allow his opponent not to be able to activate Flip the Script. I know Ryuki's played against a friend of mine during Swiss rounds on that Friday, and he was perfectly showing exactly how to do it.
Yeah, he does it over and over again. There was one point on the stream yesterday, he actually took a KO with damage, not poison, and it was a little bit surprising.
Yeah, it's one of those things I don't think either of us thought that in the TCG Masters final of the European International Competition here, would we see a Badoo take the first 2 prizes?
And Ryuki was doing this on stream yesterday. Ryuki's taking a bunch of prizes with Badoo because that Binding Mochi basically makes it Itchy Pollen for 50, and then the Poison comes in. You go up to 80 damage overall, and most things you're attacking have 60, 70, or 80 HP, so most of the time it is going to be the Poison that gets the KO. And, you know, Pheasantipity, it's got an ability whereby you draw 3 cards if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn. It means that you can get a benefit from having a Pokemon KO'd, but not if it was KO'd by Poison during Pokemon checkup. Here comes a Forest Seal Stone on the Rotom to search for any card, which I believe was that Dragapult, and now we're going to be seeing an attack. What you really want, you want the Badoo on the bench so you can KO it with the damage counters from Phantom Dive. You don't actually want to do 200 to a Badoo in the active.
No, absolutely. You want to get true and maximum value from sort of the attacks that you're launching, especially with a deck when you're manipulating damage with that Phantom Dive. As we do see the first attack announced here from Natalie in this TCG Masters final, that Badoo has gone down, and it looks like just kind of double checking what's available here from Ryuki's side of the board as the Oranguru goes to the active spot. Has free retreat, of course, because of that Skyliner ability on the Latias EX. So a number of options here because that hand hasn't been disrupted at the same time.
No, here we go with that backorder ability. An ability I had not remembered the name of that Oranguru ability coming into this weekend. It's going to be a long time before I forget it now. But here is the thing. Ryuki won game 1. They went up 2 prizes in game 2. They've not yet had to deal with a fresh Dragapult, and this is the challenge right now. Can you get up to that 320? And the answer is Binding Mochi, bunch of poison, maybe a Kieran, I don't know. Let's see how high Ryuki can go. But remember, because you're up by a couple of prizes and there will be opportunities later, it's not the end of the world if you don't get a one-hit KO. It would just be nice.
Yep, so we did see the Binding Mochi and the Forest Sealstone grab from that back order here. And there is a flip the script for 3 cards. And again, that Hisuian Heavy Ball coming down, making life a lot easier. When you've already had to search for those prizes, you get a chance to double check you have been correct. And when you're piloting a deck like this, the way Ryuki has been, you already know you've got it right. We've already said on stream before, we've had opportunities to try and search for prizes and actually struggled at times.
There has been more than one time I've searched my deck for a card, been annoyed that it was prized, and then just drawn it 2 turns later because I did not check my deck well enough. It's also worth noting the 2 cards Ryuki probably most wants from his prizes were at the top. So even just shuffling those prizes, putting that Kieran down a space, that is actually pretty nice because that extra damage could be a big deal. So, we're eyeing it up. There's the boss's orders on the Rotom. Why go to all the effort of trying to get a KO on a Dragapult when Rotom works just as well? Now we retreat into that Terapagos, and with the poison, an easy KO on Rotom. We haven't even seen Area 0 Underdepths yet. We don't even need it.
Yeah, Binding Mochi, and then the poison ticker between turns, the status checker between turns, has enabled the knockout on that Rodent V once again, Ross. Another sticky scenario for Natalie to find herself in, and really backs up against the wall as Ryuki has taken 4 prizes now in this game 2 of this European International Championships.
Okay, so here's a nice little quiz for you, Alex. Was that KO taken by damage, or was it taken by poison?
Poison.
Of course it was taken by poison. We had 130 damage plus a 40 for the Binding Mochi is 170, and then the poison came in and KO'd. Fezandipity does nothing. Natalie hasn't even benched Fezandipity in this game. It is in the deck list. Obviously it's in the deck list. She hasn't even benched it because it just never works in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And even right now, having to think from Natalie's side of the board, Dragapult EX is actually dealing 200 damage with that Phantom Dive. Right now, that Terapagos EX in the active spot has 220. Even with a poison ticker, it's only going to go down to 10 HP remaining after the between turns status checkup. It won't be enough, but...
we saw this time and time again yesterday. The numbers work so well for Terapagos here because you end up with 10 HP remaining.
Yeah, I mean, this was going to say, but there is the options of utilizing something like the Dusclops, but it's such a bit of a glass cannon right now because you're giving up a prize if you utilize Cursed Blast. And when Ryuki's already down to 2 prizes, you don't really want to make it even easier for Ryuki to just boss his orders, one of those smaller single prize Pokemon.
Yeah, there's 3 copies of boss's orders in the deck, and frankly, I'm not sure I would want to use Dusclops right now because at least right now, Ryuki has to take a 2-prize Pokemon, and there isn't a really easy 2-prizer on the field for Natalie for Ryuki to go and KO. If you use Dusclops, then anything, you know, that Duskull, that Dreepy, that Dracloak, they are so easily KO'd afterwards that it really would just give game for Ryuki with a boss's orders. Right now, different supporter, it's an Iono.
Yeah, now this is super important here, that Iono just trying to limit what Ryuki may have access to, especially when this is actually quite a difficult knockout to get in from Natalie's side of the board, right? We've already mentioned that Terapagos, even with the poison status checker between turns, will still have 10 HP remaining. And that's just when Natalie has to start figuring out her game plan of taking multiple prizes on a particular turn.
And that is really what this Dragapult deck excels in doing. Using the residual damage from Phantom Dive, plus the damage on the active from Phantom Dive, plus your Dusclops, all bundled together into a big multi-prize turn. That is the goal. Now, this is actually a sneaky big stadium here. That Temple of Sinnoh, it turns all special energy into single colorless energy, and Ryuki's deck has 2 Pokemon, Terapagos and Clorf. They attack for 2 energy or 1 double turbo. The deck is built for that. That Temple of Sinnoh has to go away.
Yeah, this is going to be really vital here. I'm really, really interested to find out what those 2 cards that Ryuki's been Ionoed into, as we're just double-checking exactly what that Phantom Dive 6 damage counters are going to be dropped onto on Ryuki's side of the board. There, it's back over to Ryuki here. Could be an important turn, of course, so figuring out exactly how this is going to work, because that Temple of Sinnoh is in play. One of the really cool, interesting interactions, if another double turbo energy is found, it does mean it doesn't have the reduction of the damage effect of the double turbo energy.
So it could actually give extra damage, because then you're hitting for the full 240. Worth noting, Natalie didn't take a prize last turn, so the only draw Ryuki has on the board, other than your draw for turn, is that Pheasantipiti's Flip the Script. But that only works if your opponent KO'd a Pokemon last turn. Natalie didn't. She put a lot of damage around the board, and you got to think that was a very deliberate thing. She wants to get KOs, maybe poison onto the Terapagos. Maybe using Dusclops next turn. What do we see?
The stadium straight into hand with another double turbo energy as well. So that Temple of Sinnoh is now not live.
No, Temple of Sinnoh goes away. That means Ryuki can go and have a big bench here of up to 8 Pokemon. Here's a Nest Ball going to search for a Pokemon. So the way the maths works is that with a full bench, you would hit 240. That reduces down to 220 with double turbo. Up to 260 with Binding Mochi, up to 290 with Poison. Kieran would hit 320. Kieran would actually get the KO here. Do we have it? No, we've got a Badoo coming in, and I like this. Ryuki saying, look, I don't need to muck about with all that. I'm going to block your items, and I'm just going to get the KO next turn.
Yep, so then just kind of slowing the game down that little bit further, trying to buy himself a little bit more time. Does have double turbo energy, remember, in hand already, so that retreat of that Terapagos EX having to using, of course, the Latias EX's Skyliner to be able to maneuver around.
The boss's orders coming down. That's a big card.
Is that
it? There we go. It looks like we are getting this Natalie win game 2 there.
Yeah,
with a lot of prizes all in one go. We had the KO on the active. We had the KO on the bench. We had the KO with Dusclops. We had Natalie building up a fantastic turn. And I said a minute ago, I wouldn't use Dusclops on that turn.
Nope.
And I wouldn't have done. Natalie never intended to. It was multiple KOs on multiple Pokemon using Dusclops, Phantom Dive, residual damage from Phantom Dive, taking all the remaining prizes and forcing us to a game 3.
And that's exactly what we were trying to mention a little bit earlier as well. You know, you don't want to force the opportunity to have to use that Curse Blast from the Dusclops. You want to find an opening, that chance, that one turn to allow you to take multiple prizes, and Natalie piloted that perfectly.
That was a masterfully set up game, and you know, we've been saying Natalie and her testing group, by all reports, they basically found out what this matchup was, they built Ryuki's deck, and they have been testing and testing and testing, looking at every possible way to win. Natalie knows this matchup inside and out, and you can't win that game without plays like that. So let's take a look back at game 2. We saw the KO on the Badoo with the Badoo, nice and early. Then we saw another Badoo coming down with the boss's orders on the Dreepy, getting a second prize. And then we saw Ryuki really start going ahead. We saw a Dragapult taking 1 prize on a Badoo, but then we saw the Rotom KO'd, and that's when Natalie started setting up the board, and we saw multiple KOs all in one go super quickly. All you need to know is that was the end of game 2, and we're going to a game 3. But Ryuki gets to go first.
Well, gets to decide which way to go first, but I'm sure
I would go first.
Yeah, I mean, just offering that opportunity maybe to take that single prize. But both of our players here in good spirits. This is the final game of this TCG Masters European International Championships here. what's going to happen. I don't know which way it's going to go, Ross.
We know it could go either way. Both of these players have been good in this matchup. Looks like we have a mulligan there from Natalie. And yeah, both players laughing, smiling. Very good spirits, Ryuki. Hoping for a little bit of luck coming in here.
Let's hear a cheer for Ryuki for this one final game, everyone. One more time. And then let's also hear one more cheer for Natalie as well. Let's get this game going. Come on.
This is the final TCG game of the entire weekend. Make some noise. And if you want to throw up crab hands, I'm down with the crab hands as well.
I absolutely love this. I love this, and I can't wait to watch this final game of Pokemon.
Just know, all you guys down the front of the crowd who are making the crab hands at every opportunity, you are my favorites.
There we go, a couple of thumbs up.
There we go.
But it's not about you, Ross, okay? It's not about you.
It's not about me, it's about our players, and it is about our crowd here. So much more fun doing this with a nice live crowd full of wonderful people enjoying Pokemon TCG action. Looks like Natalie does have a basic here, though, so that means that we can be getting into Game 3. We are ready, we are going. It is Game 3. The winner of this game will be your European champion.
This is big. Hisuian Heavy Ball allowing to check all those prizes. That one of your best starters in Ryuki's deck in this scenario is actually having access to back order. This could be a massive, massive turn, Ross.
Forest Seal Stone comes out straight away. Obviously, that Ancient Booster Energy Capsule coming out as well. You're going to need that. Those are the obvious choices for back order. And you get to put it straight onto Oranguru and then use it for, oh yeah, it's Precious Trolley, getting all of your basic Pokemon out. Whatever 5 basic Pokemon Ryuki wants to get on the board here are coming.
Here we go. Look at all the pieces.
And there we go. Ryuki is going to be your European